The Legend of the Ring. Thousands of years ago, King Solomon sat on his throne. He was the wisest man alive, but he felt his heart was still a slave to his moods. One day, the king decided to test his most trusted advisor. He gave the minister a task that seemed impossible to complete in 6 months. "Find me a ring," Solomon commanded. "It must make a happy man sad when he looks at it, and it must make a sad man happy and hopeful." The king believed no such thing existed. He wanted to humble his advisor and show him that wisdom has limits even for the greatest minds. The advisor traveled to every corner of the world. He visited wealthy jewelers in the East and mysterious merchants in the Deep South. He asked for a ring that could change a man's soul with a glance. Every jeweler shook their head in confusion at the strange request. Months passed, and the advisor grew desperate. He had searched through gold, silver, and diamonds, but none possessed such a power. On the final day before the deadline, he walked through a poor market. He saw an old man sitting on a rug, selling simple copper trinkets. The advisor approached him with little hope left. He explained the king's request for a ring that could flip joy into sorrow and vice versa. The old man smiled and took a plain gold band. He pulled out a small tool and began to engrave 3 simple words onto the metal surface. When the advisor read the words, his eyes widened. He realized he had finally found the secret that the king himself had been seeking. He rushed back to the palace just as the sun was setting. The king was hosting a grand feast, surrounded by wealth, music, and laughter. Solomon looked at his advisor and smiled proudly. "Well, my friend, have you found the ring that can conquer the human heart?" The king was feeling invincible and full of joy. He expected his minister to kneel and admit defeat before the entire royal court. Instead, the advisor walked forward and bowed. He placed a small, wooden box into the king's hands and stepped back into the shadows. Solomon opened the box and pulled out the ring. It was not encrusted with jewels. It was a simple band of gold with a short inscription. The king looked at the 3 words engraved on the ring. Suddenly, the smile faded from his face and his heart felt a heavy weight. The music seemed to stop, and the gold in the room lost its shine. The king's pride vanished as he realized the truth of the message. The 3 words were, "This too shall pass." Solomon realized that his wealth, his throne, and his life were all temporary things. He looked at his beautiful palace and felt a deep sadness. He knew that one day, all of it would crumble into dust and be forgotten. However, months later, the king faced a terrible tragedy. A famine struck the land, and his people were suffering from hunger and cold. Solomon sat in his darkened chamber, consumed by grief. He felt the weight of the world on his shoulders and saw no way to save his city. He reached for his hand and felt the ring on his finger. He turned it slowly and read the 3 words once again. "This too shall pass." A sudden wave of hope washed over his tired spirit. He realized that just as his joy had ended, his current suffering would also end. The king stood up with renewed strength and purpose. He began to organize relief for his people, knowing the dark times were fleeting. The ring became Solomon's most prized possession. He wore it every day to keep his ego in check and his hope alive during the storms. When he was too proud, the ring humbled him. When he was too broken, the ring healed him. It was a compass for his emotional journey. The story of the ring spread across the world. It taught people that balance is the key to a meaningful and peaceful life on Earth. We often cling to our happy moments, trying to make them last. But change is the only constant thing in this vast and moving universe.